podcast is part of the Big Heads Media Podcast Network. Go to bigheadsmedia.com for more great podcasts.
Hey, I'm Ray Hudson, and you are, I don't know who you are, but you're listening to Blaugranagram. Don't be like them kids in the Blair Witch Project and go away. All right?
Welcome to the Driven Shot Podcast.
Welcome, everyone. No, not like that. Don't just go in like that. Don't barge in, man. This ain't your damn home. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 4th episode of the Driven Shot Podcast. I am your host, Omar, and first off, I'd like to apologize for this episode being so late. It's the 4th episode, and I've been talking about the 4th episode for a little while now. As you might know if you did read the thread that I put out the other day, I've been dealing with some stuff, and I've just been very busy in general. I've been working on the bachelor's project for uni, and one of my friends that I'm working with for uni, and he's one of my closest friends as well, went through some personal trouble, so I had to help him with that. And on top of that, I've been working with some stuff for the brand, for Blaugranagram, and keeping up with that and my daily news reporting. It hasn't been easy, but I'm back on track now, and I am doing my best to make sure that these do come out weekly. So if you still are enjoying these, if you have any things, any pointers that you want to give me, any tips, any things you feel should be improved on in these podcasts, do let me know, because I have noticed that the views or the streams are swinging. So sometimes they'll be really good. Sometimes the numbers and the reception that you guys give me will be really good, and other times it won't be as good. And I can't figure out if that is because I'm posting these in a way that I didn't used to before, because previously I would just post these on YouTube and that would be it. But now it's also on other platforms, so I have to get some of you guys at least, on those platforms as well. Because I know that a lot of you back then requested for me to put them out on Spotify or any, listenable, want a listenable version, because you might not have time to watch the video. You'd rather just be able to listen to it, because that's what podcasts are for the most part. So I've been trying to cater to that as well, and I do realize that it might not be as straightforward, because there are so many different platforms, and you obviously want to find the one that you use the most. And if you use more than one, you got to also decide which one you want to use for listening to the podcast. So if you guys do have any pointers in terms of that, or have any experiences when it comes to which one you prefer, do let me know. And if you have any ideas of how to improve this podcast or make it more enjoyable for you guys as well, whether that be some concepts that I can include during these podcasts, like I have question time on Laugh of the Week, or other things, do tweet at me or DM me or send me an email, whatever works for you. And that being said, let's talk about what happened most recently, which was that Lionel Messi won FIFA's The Best Award of 2019. I can't really say much that, first off, hasn't been said by others, but also hasn't been said by me, because for me, Messi obviously deserved to win that award. You could make a very strong case for Virgil van Dijk, given how great of a season he's had. He's been good for the national team as well. But the thing with Messi is that his standards are so high, and that's not just me being a Messi fan. I'm not saying it from that perspective. I'm just talking from a neutral perspective. When you look at how Messi has played in the past seasons, his standards are so high, you don't compare him to other players, because he's just way above that. So you compare him to him. So where other players, for other players, getting a goal and an assist in a game might be amazing, or a goal every game might be amazing. That would be that player's really good form. Whereas if Messi doesn't get a goal, that's deemed a bad game for him. Whereas for other players, you'd look at the game and you'd be like, you know what, he's actually done pretty well. He might not have gotten a goal, but he was very involved in the play, and so on and so forth. But for Messi, because we've gotten so used to him scoring or assisting in every game, or doing something absolutely out of this world, whenever he doesn't do that, for the neutral viewer, he's just disappointed in that game. And that's one of the things where you can say he's too successful for his own good. Sometimes you could make that case. You can also make that case with Pep Guardiola. He's a victim of his own success. And when you compare a player to himself, especially considering that Messi right now is aging. He's being injured. He got injured, came back, and got a minor discomfort that might be an injury as well. It does spark some thoughts, and you also got to remember that considering that player is aging, he might, Messi right now, he won't be able to produce, in certain aspects of his game, in certain parts of his game, he won't be able to replicate what he could replicate, say, 7-8 years ago. And that's simply because he's aging. And you also have to consider that. What he's putting in right now, the effort he's putting in, both statistically, but also as how, what he actually provides during the game, what he actually adds to the team, is absolutely phenomenal. And the fact that someone can look at his season last season and tell me that he was not the best player of the world is baffling to me. Because if you saw any other player have that season that he had last season, you would call that a breakout season. No doubt. You'd call that a breakout season. If a player like Luka Jovic or Joao Felix, and I know this might be a reach because they are very, very young players, but if you saw any other player have that kind of season, because he is not at Messi standards, you deem that an absolutely fantastic season, and he would have to win the Ballon d'Or. Now, I get that it's difficult to compare a defender to a forward, right? That's not easy. But if you look at individually what Messi adds to Barcelona and what Van Dijk adds to Liverpool, from a neutral point of view, for someone who doesn't watch, which a lot of people don't watch Messi week in, week out, right? I personally do. I know a lot of Barcelona fans do. For those people that don't watch him week in, week out, you could argue that they are very close. And if Messi didn't have the season that he had, if Messi's season was a bit, I wouldn't say poorer because that does bring it in a bit negative light, but if his season wasn't as good as it was last season, you could have made a case for Van Dijk being number one in the world. But how Messi performed last season and how he's performed in the past few seasons is absolutely incredible, and it really surprises me that someone thinks that another player would be more worthy of that title, of the title as the best in the world. And that's with no disrespect to Virgil van Dijk, who I think has been absolutely immense for Liverpool. He's been great for the national team. But Messi was better, and even Van Dijk said that. He said that. He said it multiple times now, I believe, where he said Messi is the best player in the world. He's not the only one who said that either. And then you have some people going on Twitter, and I know some of a big part of those are trolls, the ones that post like, oh look, he got a 5.4 rating on SofaScore. And it's like, okay, cool, he got a 5.4 rating on a purely rating based app. Like, okay, that app is it takes multiple factors into consideration. I'm pretty sure they watch at least some of the games, surely. But those apps mainly look at numbers. They don't look at how good was this chance. How well did he actually play? He might only have created 2 big chances, but given that this defense played a completely low block system, barely allowing him to have the ball, how much did he actually do when he had the ball? How did his teammates do when he passed them the ball? Stuff like that is not taken into consideration by those apps. And if you don't watch, and I'm not just talking about Messi, I'm also talking about people judging Cristiano, people judging Neymar, people judging Eden Hazard. If you don't watch those games, it's not, you won't be able to get the same, in-depth, you won't be able to form that opinion of how that player has played in a way that justifies how the player has played if you just look at the numbers. If you look at how the player plays, if you look at what movement he makes on and off the ball, that's when you can actually go in and say, okay, this player was this good, or this player was this bad. Otherwise, you can't really talk about a player and act like you know how he played if you just watched what some certain app that you have on your phone told you. That's not a way of judging a player, and that's what a lot of people tend to do nowadays because, obviously you don't have the time to watch all the games that are going on, and many times, unfortunately, you have 2 big games going on at the same time, so you obviously can't stay fixated at both. So for obvious reasons, you'd have to resort to just looking at the apps. But I don't think it's fair that some people judge a certain player. And again, I'm not talking about one single player. I'm talking about many players that I've seen being judged solely based off of those app ratings. And it's just not fair for any of those players. And I think that's where a lot of people would say that, Messi did not deserve it. Because, look, he had this and this many assists. And this player had this and this many assists. Or this player was not dribbled past. This guy did this and this much. And only base it off of numbers, without actually considering how much that player actually adds to the team and how poor the team is without that player in. So for me, Messi undoubtedly the best in the world, and I do hope that he'll win the Ballon d'Or. Now Messi's discomfort, because I have seen a lot of people speculating on the timeline. From what I could read, it did not seem to be too troublesome. Obviously, they don't want to risk a big relapse, which means that he's most likely out for the Getafe game, and I could see him being ruled out for Inter, purely for precautionary purposes, because obviously he's just come back from an injury. He's barely played this season, and Valverde said that they took him off because it just seemed to be a discomfort. They don't want him to be, further injured, but I don't think it's a big injury. I just think they don't want to rush him back in, and given that he felt that discomfort, they don't want that to come back, and they don't want him to be even more injured than he is, because they know how much we need him this season. And that's the thing, too. When you think about how we've played in the league, and when you think about Valverde's decisions when it comes to, using players like Ansu Fati, Ousmane Dembélé, Luis Suárez, and Griezmann, it is kind of worrying. Because he has been using Ansu Fati pretty well. He's been using Dembele has been injured, but he did give him a fair share of minutes. I think Dembele did well. A lot of people said that Dembele played like Dembele usually does, which I disagree with, because this time he actually didn't try to dribble too much. He's been trying to do that before he got injured. This time he actually tried to dribble too much. Sometimes he tried to overcomplicate things, and I think this time he was good at keeping it simple. And I hope that that's what he'll do for the future now. And I'm mainly saying that because what Coutinho's problem at Barca towards the end was, and take this from someone who followed him very closely, Coutinho tried to do too much when he was on the ball. And that's just a fact. He tried to do too much. Dembele tried to do too much recently, and now he's become much better at, just not trying as hard when it comes to making those dribbles, and actually just do the simple thing. Now, obviously, I'm basing this off of this last game that we saw, and he might go back into his overcomplication mode again. But I do hope that he's learned to not overcomplicate things. I do hope that he's learned to just play the simple pass. And I think especially seeing a player like Ansu Fati come in and take that spot in the first team. Now, obviously, I'm not saying he's taking Dembele's spot, but he's definitely competing for it. And seeing that sort of competition in the team is very healthy for Dembele, for the forward positions in general. Because let's say Suarez gets injured, or let's say Valverde finally realizes that Suarez just isn't good enough to start for this team anymore. At that point, you could see Griezmann being slotted in the 9 position, as a false 9 even maybe. Most likely as a 9, because then you'd have Messi being in that cam type position. But then you'd have Griezmann up front, and then Dembélé and Fati will be competing for the left wing spot. So there are a lot of options that Valverde can experiment with, and I think Fati is just going to add more to that. But it also takes for Valverde to see that Suarez just can't start anymore. As much as I love him as a player, as much as I respect him for what he's done for the club, he's just not good enough to be a starter right now. And I don't know if it's just a dip in form, because that's what I've been saying. That's what I've been telling people. That's what I've been saying to myself, is that he's probably just dipping in form. But it's been too long of a dip to actually think that, he might just not be starter material right now. Maybe he'd be good as a substitute until he regains his form. Maybe he won't regain his form. Maybe he's just past it and would be good as a substitute. And in that case, Valverde should realize that for the better of this team. And as much as he likes to play Suarez, you can see he's not benefiting the team well enough. Put Griezmann up front. You even have Carlos Perez you can play on the wing. You have a lot of people you can play on the wings. There are many, many options he can make use of. And I really, really hope that he does, because that's one of the things that will be absolutely crucial for us if we want to compete in any competition properly. Now, we haven't had the best of starts to La Liga. The Champions League is pretty much just begun. And looking at the teams that we're about to face in the Champions League, and looking at how the different clubs have actually gone on and strengthened this summer, it's clear to see this won't be an easy race. This Champions League season will not be easy for any team. Right? We got so far last season. We got as far as we did last season. And because of the weak mentality in the team, you could also argue by Valverde in the final sprints. And again, as I've said in the past, I'm not just blaming Valverde for that. That was also on the players because they also have a responsibility. But seeing the mentality in the team overall, in that 4-0 loss at Anfield, it is worrying that we started the way we have. Because you look at the team and you see some of the players, and it really makes you think, like, why are these guys still starting? Why are these players still starting at a club like Barcelona with the ambitions that we have? Why is he keeping a player who should, you shouldn't even argue the fact that he should be a starter? Why is he keeping a player like, well, that's a question I've seen a lot of people ask. Why did you keep De Jong on the bench in the past game we played? And I think, the one against Villarreal, and I think the reason he kept him on the bench was, it could be to rest him. But then again, you would think, well, we're playing against Getafe, it's at home, this one, and it's Getafe. So it's not like we're playing a really, really big side. It's not like the Champions League game is the next game. So why would he rest him? That's one of the things where it really makes you think why Valverde is making some of the decisions he's making. Now, while I might not agree with some of his decisions, and I know a lot of people might not agree with some of his decisions, he's making some interesting decisions, and he's making some of his decisions they seem strange to me. Let's say, okay, he wants to rest some of our starting midfielders in Artur, De Jong, or Busquets, right? Plays Rakitic in as a pivot maybe, or as a box-to-box midfielder. If you want to rest our starting midfielders, instead of playing people like Rakitic, why not give Carles Alenia a chance, or maybe even Ricky Puig? Why not give them a chance instead of playing with players that might be leaving in half a year or a year, like Rakitic, for instance? And I'm only saying that because of how close he was to leaving this year, and the fact that he was also, half on his way out the year before, right? But one thing I'm not really understanding is, if he wanted to replace Rakitic, let's just put it like that, if he wanted to replace Rakitic and get a player in that would provide with the same type of dynamic that Rakitic gives, the same type of work ethic, the same type of profile that Rakitic has, he already has that in Arturo Vidal. And Vidal has barely played this season. He's played Sergio Roberto over him. And the thing with Roberto is, as much as I like him for what he's done, and the fact that he came up from La Masia, obviously, I don't think he should be starting. I don't think he's a starting quality midfielder for Barca. He has some good games when he starts where he's doing really well, and then he has some games where it's just like, why is he the one starting? Why couldn't you start another talent if you want to start the talents? If you want to start the La Masia players, why not start Alenia or Puig? You also have Vidal. If you want the Rakitic workhorse type midfielder, you have Arturo Vidal in there. You have Frankie De Jong, you have Artur Melo, you have so many midfielders you can start with. And for some reason, even when it goes wrong, he seems to always go back to the same formula. As if going with the same formula will give you different results. And that's just not how it works. That's just not how it works. It's strange. It's strange. Now, a lot of people were against his overusage of Rakitic. I was one of them, and that was not because I don't like Rakitic or that I hate Rakitic or anything like that. It was simply because Rakitic was being overplayed. He played him to the point where Rakitic just couldn't provide him as much anymore. And then when he gave him a few games rest and then played him, Rakitic was amazing because he actually had gotten the rest he needed. So it's little things like that. They might seem small, but they clearly affect the team. You know, when a player like Roberto knows that, well, I'm not going to be a starter, but I am going to be a squad player. I have this slot in the team. This is my slot. No one's going to take this because I know I don't have competition. Valverde is not going to choose anyone, other than me for this position. So now Roberto, Rakitic, etc. They know that the starting midfield right now, as it seems, is Busquets, De Jong, and Artur. Now, when he's going to swap out one of those, Rakitic knows he's not going to be the first name to pop up in Valverde's head anymore. That's going to be Roberto. So he's going to put in Roberto. Roberto knows that. So he's not going to be as eager to prove himself because I don't think Roberto is looking for a starting spot. You know, obviously, it's weird. It feels weird to say that for a Barca player because obviously every Barca player should aim for that starting spot. And deep down, I think he probably would love to start if he could. He would love to. But if you look at the way he's playing and then you look at what other players offer, I just don't think Roberto is a good bet for the starting spot in Barcelona. I just don't think. I don't think so. I don't think he is. You know, he was pulled off of right back when Semedo was about to leave, and Semedo got that right back position. I think he's been doing pretty well. He's even been versatile enough to play on the left back position, and he's actually been doing pretty well there as well. The one time he was called on for, he did pretty well. So Roberto is not going to be a right back, but I don't think he should be a starting midfielder either. Even when we're lacking midfielders, I don't think he should be the first option to be the replacement. I think Carlos Aleñá or Riqui Puig should have that spot. Because Roberto is a workhorse type midfielder. He's, I guess you could say, a bit more creative Rakitic. I still would think that the first replacement that pops into my head when I think of Rakitic is Arturo Vidal, without a doubt. And if Valverde wants to continue that dynamic that he had also with Paulinho, if he wants to continue down that road, Vidal would be the obvious bet. Now, yes, he's aging, but he would be the obvious bet if you want that profile. I don't understand why he's still playing. I don't understand why he's playing Roberto still. I just don't understand that. When you have other midfielders like Aleñá and Puig, the thing with Aleñá is that, well, for Puig, he's still in the B team, so he's still playing with the B team when he's not playing with Barca. But Aleñá is with the first team. He's promoted, so he's just on the bench. He's not even playing. I'm pretty sure he hasn't played a single minute this season. So that's where you think, would he have been better off being loaned out? And I wouldn't be surprised if he got loaned out in January, not with a buy option, but just a straight-up loan. I would not be surprised. And if things continue like they have until now, and Valverde's preferences towards which midfielders he wants to play, which midfielders he wants to field, if that continues, I wouldn't blame Aleñá for trying to get a loan out, because he's a player who deserves playing time. He's been good every time he's played for us. He has that creativity in midfield. He has that dynamic movement, those dribbles, those quick passes. And I wouldn't blame him if he got loaned out. I don't think that would be a bad decision by him. But I think I don't think he should be the one leaving, even if it is on loan. I don't think he should be the one leaving this January or in the summer. So I'm obviously hoping that he stays with us, but I also hope that Valverde gives him a chance, because if he doesn't give him a chance, I think Aleñá would be better off elsewhere, at least on loan, and then comes back when either Valverde decides to play him more often, or if we get a new manager in the summer. As for Griezmann, I know a lot of people have had mixed opinions. Some have said that he's been absolutely amazing. Some have said that he hasn't been too great. Some of them have said that he's already a Barca flop and that he's going to be Coutinho 2.0. Like I said with De Jong, because when people started getting concerned about De Jong and Valverde ruining De Jong, I said that I don't think that De Jong would be influenced by Valverde's decisions too much, because I think while Valverde obviously has the upper hand and says you play this role, you play this role, I still think De Jong is too versatile and intelligent of a footballer to let Valverde's restrictions limit him too much. And I still say I still think the same about Griezmann, because Griezmann isn't a striker per se. He's more of a second striker, more of a playmaker. And given that he hasn't exactly come in all guns blazing with goals, but he's been good for us when it comes to link-up play, hold-up play. making those right passes, tracking back defensively. He's been amazing at that. Making the right dribbles, making the right passes, the right runs, the right moves off the ball. And obviously he's still getting used to it. You got to remember, this is the same guy who played in a very defensive Diego Simeone side at Atletico for years. He's still getting used to the system, still getting used to the players around him. He's barely played with Messi, right? And he's still got to get used to it. He's got to get into that rhythm. And as soon as he is, I have no doubt that even if he is played on the wing, he'll still produce for us. He's such a great signing, and I know a lot of people were against it because they didn't feel like we needed him. We needed more of a poacher. But I think with Messi's support, if Griezmann does become a number 9 for us in the future, I think Griezmann will just bang in goals. Because he is a lethal finisher. He is a lethal finisher, even though he might have shown it too much at Barca yet. But he's good in front of goal. And if he can get that support from Messi, and whether it's Dembélé or Ansu Fati or someone else, I think he's going to be amazing for us. And I think that also really comes down to whether Valverde decides to bench Suárez ultimately or not, because that's what we need. That's what we need. If this team needs to move forward right now, in terms of what we, in terms of our finishing, in terms of our shooting, in terms of our scoring goals, to make up for the goals we're conceding at the back, we need a player who doesn't slow down the attacks. And I'm not saying Suárez should leave the club, because I love and respect him for what he's done and what he does. But I just think he shouldn't be a starter anymore. Not right now, at least. Maybe it is a dip in form. We won't know until a while. But I know a lot of people have said that he's finished. I think he's still got it, but I still think he's still got it, but not enough to be a starter. I think he could be a very good substitute, but not as a starter. And I think if he gets pushed down to that bench role, which we'll see if Valverde wants to do that and will do that. If he is pushed down to that bench role, first off, it'll motivate him. It should motivate him at least to do more on the field, and it will give other forwards a chance to actually prove their worth for Barcelona and hopefully bang in some goals and get us some more wins, because we've been needing those in that Liga table. And just the last thing I want to address before we move on to the next segment is the Valverde out hashtag and the whole idea of Valverde leaving the club. This also relates to the first question that I got, and I will talk about that a bit later. But Valverde right now, I don't see him being sacked. Well, not right now at least. But from what I've read from reliable outlets, the club trusts him still. They still trust him. But if the pattern that has been going on in terms of, at least this was said before the Villarreal game, if the pattern that we've seen in how we're drawing games and not playing well and even losing some games, if that pattern keeps going, they could reconsider his status at the club. So if we just start getting losses all over the place and playing poorly, I could see it happening, but I don't see that thing. I don't see us all of a sudden just playing poorly and not, losing all games. I don't see that happening. But if that does happen for a streak of games, I could see his position being reconsidered. If you're still watching, let me know who you would want down below. Let me know in the comments below. If you're watching this on Spotify or Google Podcasts or something like that, let me know on Twitter using the TDSPod hashtag. If you do have any questions, let me know using the TDSPod hashtag. That's a tongue twister. And on that note, let's get right on to the next segment. It's question time. Alright, so the first question comes from Apple Fusion and says, do you think there is a chance of Valverde getting sacked? Now, I did briefly address it. I could see it happening if a long streak of losses comes up. But I will be honest with you, I could see him leaving in the summer if there is a right candidate to take over. And that really depends on which options are available now and which options will be available, in a year from now. But I could see him getting sacked if we start losing a lot of games and play very poorly. I could see him getting sacked, but I don't see us performing that poorly for a streak of games. I don't see it happening. But we'll have to wait and see. I think the chance is there, but I don't think it's a very, very big chance, I have to say. So that's the first question. The second question comes from Mo and says, what do you think Valverde is going to do when Messi is back, given how much he changed his tactics? So De Jong and Arthur have been given more freedom to move, and with Griezmann playing better in a central position. I kind of went over this, but to answer your question, Mo, I think that I think it's going to be it depends on Suárez, obviously, but I think if Valverde decides to actually bench Suárez, I could imagine it being a Messi, Griezmann, Dembélé, or Messi, Griezmann, Fati when Dembélé is injured or needs rest. I could see that being the front trio. I don't think we'll play with a 4-4-2 or a 4-3-1-2, simply because Suárez just isn't doing well enough in that right now. He's not doing well enough as a whole, so I hope that we won't play with him up front with Griezmann, simply because Suárez is out of form right now and just needs to... he needs to be on the bench for a little while to gain, to regain that motivation, that drive, that passion, and hopefully regain his form when he comes to play again. I think that's going to be I think we're going to play with that front trio of Messi, Griezmann, and Dembélé if Suárez is demoted to the bench. But if he isn't, I could see it being a Messi, Suárez, Griezmann, and then Dembélé and Fati on the bench, or Dembélé on the bench. That's how I could see that going. And obviously, I hope that Arthur and De Jong continue to be our starting midfielders with Busquets, because that's been going really, really well. And I hope that continues. That's been going really well. So that he's got that one right, and it seems like the players are learning how to play with each other as time goes on, which obviously is what we would all hope for. But it seems like De Jong is linking up with some of the players really, really well. Arthur is controlling the tempo of the game really well. He's become better at releasing the ball when he has to, instead of making 360 turns on the players like he used to do it initially. But again, with Arthur, I could understand why he did that. You want to impress as well, and I think he's been a gem for us, and I think De Jong is going to be absolutely amazing as well. Even though he might not have been off to the most of promising starts according to some, I think he's actually been doing really, really damn well. As for the third question from Fares, one of the ever loyal listeners and fans of mine, and of the Blaugranagram brand, he says, "Is episode 4 a myth?" Now, you know what? I don't blame you for that question. Once again, I'm sorry for keeping you guys waiting for so long. I hope you're still tuned in, and if you have, let me down, comment down below if you're on YouTube, or, hashtag TDSPod on Twitter, and let me know your predictions for the next game against Getafe. Who do you think will win? Who do you think will score? Let me know down below. Let's have a talk. I want to see what you guys think. And on that note, it's time for the last segment of this podcast, episode 4. It is Laugh of the Week. So, this Laugh of the Week comes from Fares again, and this one shows these two Australian players from the national team, Elise Kellon Knight and Lisa Divana. I just had to read it off screen because, it's... The thing is, I have the other screen there, so that's why I have to look up there sometimes, just so you know. And essentially, it's a very short, I think a 4-second clip of Kellon Knight giving Divana this water bottle, or it seems like Gatorade actually. I'm not too sure what it is, but she gives her this bottle, and she's about to drink it. It's mid-game, I think, and she ends up trying to drink it upside down, and then she flips it forwards. I love this video, man. So she flips it over, and she just continues drinking like nothing happens. I love that. Thank you for that submission. If you guys have any funny tweets you stumble across, or any funny videos or anything you want me to include in this podcast, or if you have any questions, do use the TDSPod hashtag and send them my way. Now, I will be doing my best to post these weekly, and I will keep you guys updated. I will have an announcement coming in the coming days. I'm still working on the final details for that, but it will be coming up soon. So stay tuned for that. And on that note, I'd like to thank you for tuning in. I was well, I have been trying to keep these podcasts at a length where I think you guys wouldn't get, either bored or feel like it's too slow paced or anything like that. And at the same time, I didn't want to rush them or make them feel too fast paced. So I've been trying to find a middle ground, and I think this one is about 40 minutes, 40-ish, and hopefully that should do it. If you guys have any suggestions for the length, if you think this one was too short or too long or right, if it really just hit the spot time-wise, do let me know. I want you guys to enjoy this as much as I do, and I genuinely do enjoy making these, and hopefully you guys enjoy listening to them as well. So if you haven't already, subscribe on YouTube, drop a like on this. If you are on Spotify, Google Podcasts, or Apple Podcasts, do follow the podcast. Drop a rating. Let me know if you enjoyed it or not, if there's anything you think I can improve on, because that also helps the podcast getting a bigger reach to other people who might not be, following me on Twitter, or if it will get a bigger reach to people who are on those respective platforms. So if you do have the option to, please do that. And on that note, I'd like to thank you for tuning in. Thank you for watching, and I hope you have a fantastic day. And I'll see you next week. Peace out, everyone.